Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Erin and today I'll be addressing the question, are INFPs weak? I became inspired to make this video because of MBTI YouTuber Frank James. He made a video recently where he ranked the 16 types from strongest to weakest. He ranked the INFPs as the weakest, aka the cream puffs, and as you might have imagined, this pissed me off, and so here I am making a video about it. There's this perception that INFPs are weak because they tend to embody the characteristics of what most people would consider to be psychological weakness, such as being highly emotional, being indecisive, caring too much about what other people think, and taking everything too personally. Being highly emotional isn't a bad thing unless you allow your emotions to control you and take over your life. The other reason I'm making this video is because of some posts I've seen on Reddit from INFPs who believe that they're inferior in comparison to other types. I'm going to go ahead and read some excerpts from one of these posts, which is titled, INFP, the Unnecessary Personality Type. Where do I begin? I was born with the utmost of luck to be a feeble, weak, prowessless INFP. My body type is slim and skinny. It doesn't look impressive. My head is full of self-deprecating and horrible thoughts. I hate myself. The INTPs and the INTJs are the superior types due to their use of logic in everyday situations. All INFPs do is dream and brood and be unproductive. INFPs, please tell me how you cope with being one. I feel so inferior next to the other types, and I can't wait for technology to improve so that I can physically change my brain so that these traits don't manifest themselves. I don't want to be an inferior mental archetype. Convince me otherwise, because this life is getting very boring, and if I'm waiting for a train, I find myself compelled to be under it as it passes through so that my parents can try for another child who isn't an INFP. So I got the impression from reading this that it's probably a young man who suffers from a lack of self-esteem and suicidal ideation. One reason why the MBTI bothers me is that people think that if a cognitive function isn't in their ego, then they just can't access it, but this isn't true. Extroverted sensing is not in my ego, yet here I am, giving people an experience. He mentioned how other types are more logical than INFPs. It's not that you can't be logical because you're an INFP. Being an INFP doesn't make you stupid or unable to use logic. It just makes it difficult for INFPs to adapt to several facets of society because outside of education, our society doesn't reward people who are emotional and sensitive, but it does reward people who are logical. I remember when I found out that I was an INFP, thinking that there should be some sort of guidebook for those of us who feel like outcasts because society just wasn't made for us. I think that being an INFP man is very difficult. Many people who study Jungian psychology consider INFPs to be one of the more feminine types, but when you get into the four sides of the mind dynamics, INFPs are triple direct, which means if you, as an INFP, develop the other sides of your mind, you will become more masculine because you'll be able to access your subconscious and your shadow, which are both direct alpha types. If I could speak to this person one-on-one, I would say to them that whatever society perceives you to be isn't who you actually are. I would tell them that there are women who would actually complement his type, such as ENFJs, INFJs, as well as ESTPs and ISTPs. I would also point to Jordan Peterson, who is an emotional person, but he's embraced his masculinity and allowed it to flourish. Read his book, 12 Rules for Life. With the accumulation of time and experience, all INFPs can become more like thinkers. They can become more direct, more wise, more courageous, and they can become brilliant if they work on themselves. I would also say that not all women are attracted to the stereotypical attractive male. who is the muscular, rugged, six-pack having kind of man. Many women are attracted to men with a feminine side. Personally speaking, I think that skinny, mildly effeminate men can be really cute. I would also tell him that there are many women, like myself, who are attracted to men with a good mind and a good heart. As far as his suicidal ideation is concerned, I will say this. Ever since I was a kid, I always wanted to be brave. I am many things, but I promised myself that I would not die a coward, and suicide is the most cowardly thing anyone can do. I would tell him to never give up, ever. So what is psychological weakness? A lot of people end up with a weak mindset because of trauma or things that happened in their childhood that they couldn't control. Abuse, neglect, and social isolation, especially for INFPs, will undoubtedly take a toll on their level of confidence. But as an adult, you have the option to either let those things dictate your life or let them fuel your willpower to overcome any obstacle. So I've got some traits, some characteristics of weakness here. I've got a little list going. So the first is the inability to control emotions, or allowing your emotions to run you, basically. There's a stereotype that INFPs cry all the time. I'm not going to debate this. As a young adult, I used to cry all the time. I remember writing poetry as a teenager and describing myself as a raw nerve. I was ruled by my emotions. But because of experiences that I've had in the last 6 to 8 years of my life, I'm at the point now where nothing even phases me anymore. It's actually hard for me to cry, believe it or not. At one point in my life, my personality dissolved. It disintegrated. I could actually feel my cognitive functions being stripped away from me one by one. It was almost like I ceased being human. After a few months, much to my amazement, my ego grew back again, but this time it was better. It was stronger. And now I feel like a tank. Nothing can penetrate me, nothing can destroy me, and good luck trying to make me cry. I'm not saying it's a bad thing to be emotional. In truth, I think most people just lack the ability to have any emotions or passions because they're empty inside. But for an INFP, it's all too easy to allow your emotions to run the show, but this won't help you in solving problems in your life. I also don't think that crying makes a person weak. Again, look at Jordan Peterson, who allows tears to stream down his face when he's sympathizing for other people, and yet I doubt that a high number of people would consider him to be weak. Instead, he is a force to be reckoned with because he knows how to stick to his guns and he doesn't compromise when it comes to his beliefs. I would recommend that all INFPs learn everything they can about Stoicism. Marcus Aurelius is one of the most famous Stoics. In my opinion, he was Rome's greatest emperor. He faced a lot of challenges and obstacles, including war and famine, yet he remained undeterred in his endeavors. The 4 main virtues of Stoicism are wisdom, justice, courage, and moderation. I plan on making another video that focuses on Stoicism because, in my opinion, it's the best philosophy for INFPs who want to fortify their mental strength. A second trait of weakness is difficulty coping with failure, changes, and feedback, as well as the inability to handle criticism and having a desperate need for external validation. Here's the thing. The thoughts that exist in the heads of other people cannot hurt you. They can only hurt you if you allow it. Learn to value criticism as a tool for improvement. Learn to see criticism as your best friend that will reveal precious truths about you that you otherwise don't know because of your blind spots. A true friend will not pander to you. A true friend will criticize you. It's good to feel competent enough to base your decisions on your own judgment, even though asking other people for their opinions is just smart because, as we all know, other people think differently than us, and they can offer valuable input just because they have a different perspective. But basing your self-worth just on the opinions of other people isn't going to work for you as an INFP. INFPs lead with a judging function, and somewhere in your mind, everything has to go through FI hero. And oftentimes, external validation just doesn't really mean much at the end of the day because of how stupid people are. Look at the Stanley Cup craze, for example. People are trampling each other at Target to buy a cup. This is going to be another flash in the pan that will fall out of fashion soon enough. Deep down, your opinions are going to hold more weight than the opinions of a bunch of idiots. The standards you set for yourself and your ability to meet those standards will matter more than the standards other people impose on you. As far as wanting other people to like you, you can kind of think of it this way. You have two choices. You can choose to not be yourself, and some people will like you, and some people won't like you. Or you can choose to be yourself, and some people will like you, and some people won't like you. You may as well be yourself. Another characteristic of weakness is blaming other people for your problems. When you blame other people for your problems, you're actually giving your power away. If you think that your problems were caused by other people, then only other people can fix those problems. When you begin to fully understand that for every problem you have, there's always some self-accountability involved, you'll be able to start solving your problems on your own. So, say you find yourself in a bad situation with another person. You must acknowledge that you made decisions that got you in that bad situation to begin with. And as such, you're the only person with any real power to get yourself out of it. So it's like the decisions that you made got you into a bad situation. Therefore, only more decisions that you make can get you out of it. The fourth aspect of weakness is the inability to follow through on goals, giving up easily, and having a lack of resilience. The tertiary function of INFPs is introverted sensing. This may not seem like a strength because it causes us to have like blinders on a lot of the time, but according to C.S. Joseph, having SI child makes INFPs incredibly resilient, and he's right. SI is also where our faith comes from. When an INFP is dealing with an incredibly difficult situation, they can use their faith to believe that they can endure anything. Whether it's physical or emotional suffering, the INFP can survive it. The next time you find yourself in an impossible situation, believe wholeheartedly that you can outlast whatever problem you are facing. So number 5 on my list is lacking willpower and self-control. Having willpower is something that I think is a weakness of most INFPs because we have NI critic, and this makes it hard for us to commit to something that we want to do. Ask yourself, what is something you want to change about yourself or your life? Say you had a genie, and with a wish you could change anything. What would you want to change? Would you want to lose weight, donate to charity, earn a degree, become a painter? If you really want to develop your willpower, try quitting something that you're addicted to. I can almost guarantee that for INFPs, this will further your development and get you closer to cognitive integration. Weak people have a tendency to define themselves as victims, and as such, they have a victim mentality. In our current society, it's trendy to be a victim. It's trendy to have mental illnesses. It's trendy to elicit pity from other people because of choices that your parents made. To me, this is ridiculous because for people who are actually victims of horrible acts of abuse and violence, and for people who actually suffer from real mental health issues, there is nothing desirable about being a victim. It is not something to brag about. It's something to permanently conquer. People go on social media to promote their own pity party because the attention becomes addictive for them. Victimhood is for cowards. People make choices. Life isn't fair. Victimhood is for people who lack the capacity to forgive other people and move on. The past doesn't exist anymore, so why are you living there? Forgiveness gives us the freedom from the shackles of our past. So the last feature of weakness that I have here is focusing on problems instead of solutions. When most people have a problem, they tend to focus exclusively on everything that they can't do. They focus on things that they can't control. When you're in a bad situation, the only thing that should concern you is what you can do. For example, say you hate your job. Right? Say you have problems with your coworkers and you don't get paid enough. You can hope that the people you don't get along with will somehow miraculously start treating you better. You can hope that your boss will give you a raise or a promotion because you feel like you deserve it. The problem is that you can't force anybody to do anything, but what you actually can do in that situation is to get a new job and move on. So again, don't focus on what you can't do. Focus on what you can do. In my life, I have found that a lot of people have mistaken my kindness for weakness. I'm willing to bet that this is something that happens to a lot of INFPs, not just me. On one hand, I kind of like it because it means that they are underestimating me and this gives me the upper hand. But on the other, it has caused people to treat me like crap because we live in a world where kindness can be seen as a form of weakness and naivete. I consider myself to be a Christian. To me, what it means to be a Christian is that you're supposed to do your best to act more like Jesus. I think that when God incarnated Jesus, that he was meant to serve as an example for people, sort of like God saying, here, act like this one. But even Jesus had his limits. Yes, in general, he was a kind man, but he wasn't kind all the time. It's like in the story about Jesus and the money changers at the temple. He wasn't having it. He got pissed off and threw them out of the temple because he knew that what they were doing was wrong. As INFPs, it's acceptable for us to get pissed off. People may not like it, especially the FE users around you, but if someone is treating you badly, or if someone is treating someone else badly for no good reason, you do have the right not to like it. You're not obligated to feel happy and agreeable at all times to placate the FE users around you. They're perfectly capable of producing their own feelings and their own happiness with their own FI. And if their FI is too underdeveloped to do that for them, then that's their problem, not yours. Every type has the capacity to be strong and the capacity to be weak. If Frank James ever met me in person, he'd be moving that INFP sign towards the top of his list. I think our society in general sort of encourages weakness. I think it socializes people to be weak so that they don't start thinking for themselves. Because if people in society did start thinking for themselves, they probably wouldn't pay a bunch of money for stuff that they don't even need. Weak people make for good consumers. Strong people make for good revolutionaries. So that's the conclusion of my video. Thank you for watching. If you have any thoughts, you can go ahead and leave me a comment down below and I'll read it. So again, thank you for watching and I'll see you next time.